The firing range on orbital station Kepler-7 hummed with the energy signatures of plasma weapons and railguns. Priya Sharma stood at lane 15, her fingers wrapped around something that made the other cadets pause mid-shot. A primitive kinetic pistol that looked like it belonged in a museum rather than a military academy. "Is that a projectile weapon?" chittered Zalthos, a Velkari cadet whose compound eyes glittered with amusement. His mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. "Does it use combustion? How delightfully archaic." Priya didn't respond. She'd heard it all before during her 3 months at the Galactic Defense Initiative Academy. The daughter of a veteran marksman from Mumbai, she'd grown up with the weight of metal in her hands, the smell of gunpowder in her nostrils. While other human cadets had eagerly adopted plasma rifles and energy weapons, Priya had requested special dispensation to train with ballistic firearms. The range master, a towering Kryn named Instructor Vesh, clacked his beak impatiently. "Cadet Sharma, you're holding up the qualification round. 50 meters, 10 targets, standard speed. Begin when ready." Around her, cadets shifted their multi-jointed limbs and adjusted their visual sensors. The Velkari had targeting computers built into their neural networks. The Kryn possessed eyes that could track objects at supersonic speeds. The silicon-based Lithans could calculate trajectory with mathematical precision. And then there was Priya, just human, just flesh and bone and neurons firing across synapses. She raised the pistol, her breathing slowing. The weight was familiar, comforting. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "Beta, a gun is not a tool of technology, it's an extension of your will." The targets illuminated, holographic projections of hostile drones moving in erratic patterns. Zalthos beside her opened fire immediately, his plasma rifle's targeting system painting kill zones in his neural HUD. Energy bolts streaked toward targets with computer-guided precision. Priya squeezed the trigger. The crack of gunfire was primitive, almost violent compared to the whisper of energy weapons. The first target shattered, then the second. Her hands moved with fluid grace, each shot a conversation between her body and the weapon. She didn't aim with computers or targeting reticles. She aimed with something older, something buried deep in human evolutionary biology. The same instinct that had once hurled spears at woolly mammoths, that had flung stones at predators in the African savanna. Crack, crack, crack. Her fellow cadets had stopped shooting. Even Zalthos, who had been showboating with his neural targeting, had frozen mid-fire. Priya's bullets found their marks with impossible consistency, not just hitting the targets, but striking the exact center of each holographic drone's power core, a zone no larger than a credit chit, moving at speeds designed to challenge even AI-assisted aim. 10 shots, 10 targets, 8 seconds. The range fell silent, except for the fading echo of gunfire. "Impossible," whispered Zara Chen, another human cadet who'd abandoned traditional weapons weeks ago. The targets were moving at variable speeds. "The wind simulation was active. How did you—" Instructor Vesh's heavy footsteps approached. The Kryn's obsidian eyes fixed on Priya, then on her weapon, then back to her face. For a long moment he said nothing. "Cadet Sharma," he finally said, his voice carrying across the range. "Demonstrate again. Maximum difficulty. Lights out." A murmur rippled through the assembled cadets. Maximum difficulty with no illumination was designed for species with enhanced vision or echolocation. For humans, it was considered nearly impossible even with computer assistance. Priya nodded. The lights died. Darkness swallowed the range. In the blackness, she could hear her own heartbeat, hear the whisper of recycled air through ventilation shafts, hear the soft hum of the holographic projectors warming up. She closed her eyes. A paradox, but one that made sense to her. Her father had taught her this too. Vision is just one sense. Trust all of them. The targets activated. She could hear them, the subtle whistle of their movement through air, the faint electromagnetic hum of their projection matrices. Her body moved on instinct, muscle memory carved through thousands of hours on Earthside ranges. The pistol barked in her hands, muzzle flash painting brief snapshots of the world in orange light. When the lights returned, all 10 targets were destroyed. Instructor Vesh moved closer, his beak nearly touching Priya's shoulder. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, but in the shocked silence of the range, everyone heard. Only humans master that method. Zalthos's antennae twitched in confusion. I don't understand, Instructor. Humans have inferior visual acuity. Their reaction times are slower than most species. Their computational abilities are irrelevant, Vesh interrupted. He gestured to Priya's weapon. What you witnessed wasn't computation. It was intuition, a skill your species engineered out of yourselves 3,000 years ago when you integrated neural networks. The Lithans never had it. The Kryn lost it to genetic modification. He turned to address the entire range. Humanity is the only species in the Galactic Defense Initiative that still trains what they call instinctive shooting. For millions of years, their ancestors survived by throwing projectiles, first rocks, then spears, then bullets. Their brains developed specialized neural pathways for predicting trajectory without conscious calculation. They aim not with computers, but with a part of their brain so ancient it predates language itself. Priya felt the weight of dozens of alien eyes upon her. Vesh continued, his voice gaining intensity. In combat, computers can be hacked, neural networks can be disrupted, targeting systems fail. But this, he tapped Priya's temple with one talon, this cannot be shut down. This cannot be jammed. When every system fails, when you're in darkness or electromagnetic chaos, a human with a projectile weapon becomes the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The instructor stepped back, his voice returning to its normal commanding tone. Cadet Sharma has just demonstrated why human operatives are valued as special forces across all civilized systems, why our enemies fear human boarding parties above all others. It's not technology, it's not strength, it's this ancient, primal skill that they've refused to abandon. Zalthos approached slowly, his earlier mockery replaced with something like reverence. Cadet Sharma, could you teach this method? Priya smiled, finally holstering her weapon. I can try. But Instructor Vesh is right. Your species thinks too much. You'll need to learn to trust your gut over your neural net. That's the hard part. As the class dissolved into excited chatter about human evolutionary advantages, Priya caught Instructor Vesh's eye. The Kryn dipped his beak in a gesture of respect. She'd come to the academy expecting to prove herself. Instead, she'd reminded the galaxy of something they'd forgotten, that sometimes the oldest methods aren't primitive. They're timeless. And in the cold equations of survival, instinct trumped technology every time.